I'm 6 or 7 years old. The Atari 2600 comes out, and wow, you have like spaceships and asteroids and stuff, and this is right about the same time that the arcade became a thing, with the invention of, now arcades weren't, hold on, back up just a little, arcades didn't actually exist. There was like pool halls and roller skating rinks and stuff like that. They would have pinball machines, and some of them would have a bunch of pinball machines. And so here comes this game you play in a cabinet with a TV screen, and so now we're officially in the age of video games. That is a video game. So when they came out with a Pong system to plug into your TV, we were one of the very first to have it. But as simple as Pong is, we would play that shiz for hours. We would play and play and play and play and play and play. And eventually there was an upgrade where if you hit a button, the ball would stick to the paddle. What? Mind blown. I can't believe the degree of intricacy to make that ball stick to the paddle. It's crazy. But out of all of my friends, every single kid I knew, and family, we were the only ones that had Pong. So still, brand new concept, very off the beaten path. Not a lot of people even knew this thing existed. So now through these years, Atari was king. I don't know how many years that was, man. Probably 7 or 8 years that Atari was the only game in town. Well, in television, there was a ColecoVision and stuff like that tried to keep up. But in television was just too complex for most people. It had, the Atari, everybody knows the famous Atari joystick. It's a stick with a single red button. That's it. And just everything got more and more sophisticated over time. So, I guess there wasn't any upgrades. There wasn't anything new. It was just that. And then Atari decided that they were going to upgrade their own, and I think it was a 5200. They came out with the Atari 5200. Noticeably better graphics on everything. So of course their biggest sellers, they immediately came out with, like at launch or close to. There was the Pac-Man and the asteroids and stuff like that, and very, very noticeably better graphics. And for reasons I couldn't tell you, that system just sunk. My brother calls me and says, do you have a Nintendo? I'm like, what? A Nintendo gaming system. You remember the Atari? Oh, I definitely remember the Atari. Well, it's like that, but better. What? Yeah. So Nintendo is a gaming company that they've been making games and toys and stuff for, I think at that point, almost 100 years. Yeah. Pokemon already existed as a card game and all that kind of stuff.
There was a card game before it ever came
Never here. Never in the U.S.
Oh, Japan.
Never here. So Nintendo is a huge gaming company in Japan, and nobody here knows anything about it. So they have already had a successful run of the Famicom, the family console, in Japan, which never made it stateside. They never released it over here. And then they traditional, you're going to love this as time goes on, in traditional Nintendo fashion, they give it a nice little makeover and release the Famicom in the US like 10 years after it was out in Japan, and that's the Nintendo Entertainment System. And so my brother says that I can borrow his while he's at some ski trip. We don't live in the same town, so this is kind of hard to do, but so I borrow his and play Dodgeball. It was the very first game I played on that. And holy crap, the graphics! What? This is insane. Everything's in color, and wow. The people look kind of like people. Well, by comparison to the Atari. and like, wow, this was fun, and just go on from there to all these other games that, oh, I gotta have one. So yeah, I had to go buy me a Nintendo. So now we're looking at 1986, somewhere around there. So got one of those, played the crap out of it, and Nintendo dominated right around that same time that Sega releases, and they're like, we're going to one-up these guys. Okay, so everybody knows a Nintendo Entertainment System is an 8-bit system. So Sega comes along, and they're like, look at these chumps. We're going to release a 16-bit system. Better everything. Load times, graphics, everything. Twice as good. 16-bit to your 8-bit. Suck it, Nintendo. And they could not get a strong foothold in the market. Okay, so I played Metroid on accident. And I say on accident because a friend of mine lent me his games, and I didn't know anything about any of them. Never heard of them before. And one of them is Metroid. Never heard of it before. And popped it in and started playing. And blew my freaking mind. That game was so much fun. It's one of those games that when it's over, you wish to God you could erase your memory of it and start it from scratch and not know anything about it. It was so unbelievably fun. Every little twist and turn and everything you discovered and everything you unlocked, and oh my God, Metroid, wow. Then hearing that Metroid 2 is going to be a Game Boy exclusive. A Game Boy, a handheld gaming system. It was a big old brick. And they're too expensive, man. There was not enough games worth getting that system. You know, I think there was only like maybe 20 games total for the entire system. And the majority of those were just crap. Zero interest. They did have Tetris for it, which I love Tetris, so. But I'm not spending hundreds of dollars on a gaming system to play one freaking game. But Metroid 2, oh man, so I did. I broke down and I bought a Game Boy. So, and Sega goes out, and again, they're like, we're going to not only one-up, we're going to like 5-up these guys, and they released their Game Gear, which was all color and a backlit screen, which that also, the Game Boy didn't have a light. You can't play a Game Boy in the dark. It has no light. The screen is not illuminated. You had to get an attachment that literally clips on the thing, and it had to have its own battery and a little light that hangs over the top of the screen that you have to keep out of the way of your view so you can see your game in the dark.
We have that.
Yes, we do. Because that goes on the Game Boy Color. So even when they did finally bring color to the Game Boy, they still didn't have an illuminated screen. And for reasons I still to this day cannot explain, they just constantly kicked the crap out of Sega. Sega 1-up them or 10-up them at every turn. The Sega systems, everything was so much better, and I don't know why they were just never as popular. The price points were the same. The Sega Genesis and the Nintendo Entertainment System were out at the same time. Their price points were identical, and Nintendo outsold them like 3 or 4 to 1. Like, it wasn't even a close competition. Nintendo's learning through all of this. They come out with their next system. It was so many years after the launch of, what was originally the Famicom. You know, like, I don't know, was it 20 years or something? It was a long freaking time. And they come out with a Super Nintendo. And everybody and their dog had to have it. I definitely did, and I was a day one buyer. And wow, just played the brakes off of that. So many fun games. So many. Again, that's a 16-bit system. So they're only now jumping into the 16-bit market. So only now the Genesis has been out for 10, 15 years, I don't know. And they're only now getting up to that, and it's just not. It outsells the crap out of Sega. And it's just, wow, what is happening? What is happening? So now, all of a sudden, everybody is seeing the video game market is alive again. Alive and thriving. You know, this is huge. This is turning into big money. Big money. Now Final Fantasy is a huge title, and now all these other, things start popping up. Madden, very first Madden game, the very first FIFA games. popped up on the Super Nintendo. So some of the biggest franchises today popped up on the Super Nintendo. And it was just crazy that everybody's playing them. I had Madden. I played the brakes off that Madden game on the Super Nintendo. It was just nuts. So, and Sega's just shrugging their shoulders like, what the hell are we supposed to do? Now, throughout this whole time, pirates have figured out how to pirate these cartridges of Nintendo's. Somebody figured out how to bootleg those? That's insanity. But I guess it was a huge problem, at least to Nintendo in their mind, that they saw their revenues just getting eaten up like crazy, and that to them it was one of the biggest problems that they faced was solving the bootleg crisis. So now they're looking at making a new system as the Super Nintendo has run through many years, and so they're like, okay, what's our priorities? Priority 1, no bootleg. Top of the list, no bootleg. We got to figure out a way to no bootleg. Number 2, no bootleg. Number 3 on the list, no bootleg. Number 4, we'd like to upgrade, get out of the MIDI music stuff where we've been doing the 8-bit sound kind of thing the whole time. Let's see if we can get some CD quality sound in there. And we would like some better storage space. The cartridges are running out of room. There's only so much we can shove in a cartridge. So, maybe. So they went to Sony and said, hey, Sony, we have a dilemma. We need superior sound and we need superior video, and you guys are basically kings of the market. You have the best video players, you have the best CD players, you are kings of these things. And so Sony's like, all right, we're up for the challenge. Now it's a collaborative effort. Nintendo and Sony together are making a game console. And they made a Nintendo PlayStation. And it looks damn near identical to the Sony's PS1. So Sony presents this, this development team presents it to the execs at Nintendo. I'm like, all right, here's what we came up with. Here's this and that. And they immediately said, absolutely not. What? Why? Because you made a disc-based system. Yeah? That is one of the easiest to pirate forms of media ever invented. So we're not doing it. And they're like, you got to be nuts. Well, there's not a better way. You're not getting better sound and you're not getting these things on a disc. I mean, on a cartridge. You're only going to get it on a disc. And they're like, nope, we are so convinced that this is a failure and will never, ever be a success because the piracy is just going to be outrageous that they just signed off on it completely. Here you can, since you developed your half, it's yours. We sign off. You have full rights to that piece of crap, that garbage. There's the Atari Jaguar. Atari came out with a new system, the Jaguar. 3DO came out with a new system. Best graphics of the bunch. 2 games. They got 2 games. And it was the most expensive too. It's like $600 then, and you got 2 games that don't come with it. So good luck. So here comes the N64, and they're like, well, they don't have it out yet. They're getting behind because all of their development was looking into their 32-bit system, which they gave to Sony. They just gave it to them. So now they're sitting there like, oh crap, we don't have a 32-bit system. So do we go try to make a cartridge system for this? And we're late to the game. Because the Jaguar and the 3DO, they're all disc-based. The PlayStation, all disc-based. And Sony wasn't doing great. They're alright. They're holding their own. But, their games are just, they're okay. And so Nintendo finally releases the 64. So they're in a weird position playing the same kind of thing that Sega was doing before. Of like, look what we did. It's a 64-bit system. Huh? What do you think about that, PlayStation? What do you think about that, Sony? And the sales weren't there. It's a cartridge-based system. And the sales weren't there. And they're like, yeah, you should have learned. So they go out and start licensing all these movies. And so now for the first time, you're seeing just a butt ton of movies showing up as cartridge games. Some of them were gigantic hits. GoldenEye, one of the most famous video games on the planet. The sales are doing okay for the 64, but it's not coming close to the PlayStation. The PlayStation is just now dominating. It's taken over. Atari can't keep up, pulls the plug, stops supporting the Jaguar. It is now a dead system, no sequel. And then all these other consoles died off. And so Sega's still kind of been in the background this whole time of like, you know, what are you guys going to come up with next? And, you know, and Nintendo's like, okay, so the 64 ain't cutting it. We're going to have to break down and do a disc-based system after all. But we're not doing a CD-based system. Piracy, still our number one concern. So they made the GameCube with these tiny little discs, which is their property. That's their intellectual property. Those mini discs belong to Nintendo. Nobody else is allowed to make them on Earth. Suck it, pirates.
When did Dreamcast come out?
Same time.
Oh.
Dreamcast put out, at that time, the best console ever made. To this day, one of the best consoles ever released.
Better graphics means it's more realistic.
And gameplay and wow, dude. Wow. Absolute wow. And for reasons I can't explain, they did no marketing. Nobody knew that console was out there except hardcore gamers. If you're a gamer, but that's not how you get to be, you know, you advertise your Sony PlayStation to everyone.
It was like a family thing. It's for kids as well.
Yeah, so there's people that have no gaming systems, never owned one, are out buying PlayStations, and they don't know anything about Sega or Dreamcast. There's no advertising.
Like grandmas have it for their kids, like you were saying.
Yep. So, you know, Dreamcast is by far the superior product of that generation, and nobody knew about it. I happily played the crap out of my Dreamcast, and did for years. And then here comes the GameCube with their mini discs, and this was, nobody knew it yet, but this was it for Nintendo. This was it. Nintendo sunk themselves because they made piracy their highest priority. In China, exclusively in China, for I think it was 12 years, they had, you know, they didn't have a Famicom system over there. They only had a handheld system with 2 screens. A dual screen. So their new latest and greatest thing was just like releasing the Famicom as the Nintendo Entertainment System. Is like, ta-da! The Nintendo DS. It's been out for over a decade.
Wow.
In China. So, hey, there you go. It's a new thing. And I was like, well, this is where they fail. No, I was wrong. Nintendo's got a lock on the handheld market. Locked it down. So then Sony comes along and is like, bro, watch this. You know, hold my beer. You want to see handheld gaming? We're Sony. And they developed a handheld gaming system that absolutely, I think it changed the video game industry. Just too few people know it. A huge technological leap forward in the PSP. The PlayStation Portable. Wow. Disc-based, but they're in their little cases so you can't tear them up. You can put them in your pocket, you know, and you, oh my god.
And
you have
can play movies on
Wi-Fi. You can go Wi-Fi, you're wireless internet connected, and it's got ad hoc, so if you're close to somebody, your systems will connect right there, and you can just, have a little local thing, all ad hoc, so it's all wireless. Bro! And eventually the PS3 comes out, and you can connect it to the PS3. Bro, you can keep a digital library for the first time ever. You can keep a digital library of your games on your gaming console for your handheld system. What?
You didn't even bring up PS3 coming out.
Well, of course. The PS2 to this day is the best-selling system of all time. And yes, I was there day one. So they had, I think it was 6 games at launch. That's all they had at launch. But they did one more thing to revolutionize the gaming industry, and I mean revolutionize. They were the first ones to do backwards compatibility. So every game you own on the PS1, you can play on your PS2. You pop that disc right in the machine and it plays it. What? Oh, did we mention that little invention called digital video, DVD? We put that in there too. You did what? It can play DVDs? Which DVDs killed the VHS tape. So hold on. My new gaming system, which I've not bought yet because it's not out yet, you can connect it to the internet. It plays DVDs. It's got backwards compatibility, and it'll play CDs. You can put any CD in there and it'll play it. What the effing F? Are you serious? Again, every time they stepped up, they revolutionized the market and took it. They didn't go just a step higher. They just leaped way out ahead of everybody with technology. Sony's been so far ahead of the curve. And what nobody knew at the time, because it had a little panel on the back, that they had already planned an exclusive for Final Fantasy XI Online. And Nintendo's sitting over there going, oh, we're getting our ass kicked. Bro. So then, but Sony gets lazy. Out comes the Xbox, and they're like, Microsoft, what a joke. They're a software company. You don't know shit about gaming. You don't know shit about hardware. You make flight simulators. What is Microsoft known for? Flight simulators. What else? What else do you make? Can you name one? Can you name a game you've made? No, you don't make you're out of your league, man. You're in the wrong lane, bro. You need to get back in your lane. And they just laughed him off. And the Xbox did not do great. Gigantic, bulky system, prone to break down and stuff. But here they come with a bunch of great games. And all of a sudden people are taking notice. I took notice. I bought one. I was like, there are some fun games in here. And then they started playing the Sony game. They started getting exclusives. You got Fable. You got Crimson Skies. You got, you wouldn't know any of these, but Tom Clancy series.
No.
Yep, all exclusive to Xbox. So here's all these great games, and now they're on the map. They ain't doing anywhere near the numbers, but they're on the map. So they're like, okay, we're gonna plan our next big one. So we're gonna, what is it, Xbox 2? What is it gonna be? No, here's where the geniuses start their own little problem of naming their systems. Started right here. Your Xbox. That's a great name. That's a great name. Very solid gamey, And then the Xbox 360. And surprise, the Xbox 360 makes it to market. How that surprised Sony, I don't know. Why it surprised Sony, to this day, I don't know. You can probably read about stuff online. What happened? How did you get to the launch? How did you get to launch a year, one full year ahead of the PS3? Like, were Sony set up to do that, but they had something go wrong? Did it actually surprise you? Were you so overconfident that the Xbox, the next Xbox, was going to be a joke and a failure that you just didn't give it any credit? You don't need to put out a system next to theirs because you're dominating the market. The PS2 sales are off the freaking chart. Well, here's the 360, and it's playing games that are far superior in the way they look, and they know the game. Here you come with Call of Duty was a launch title, and stuff like that. So they're smart in what they're doing, and this was a ton of kids' first game console. Was the Xbox 360, and you have no competition. You couldn't go say, well, I've heard that the PS3 is better, so I'm going to go get one. There's no competition. You had a full year to sell your units before the other one even came to market. Nintendo pops up and says, you know what? Not enough people own an HD TV. And at the time I thought, you guys are just shooting yourself in the foot. Just quit now. I was wrong. We're going to put out a system that doesn't have internet capability. Wait, no, did we? No, we did. It was the GameCube that didn't. So the Wii, it has internet capability. That's right, because you have the Mii universe or Miiverse, whatever. But it's going to be all standard definition. We're not going to put out HD games. And so there's not going to be an HD hookup at all for the Wii. And gimmick time! Wiimotes. You got to do a wavy wandy thing, and it's a weird little dealy wangler.
And there's the attachment.
Not at first. It was only a Wiimote. It was later that came out with a nunchuck attachment. So wow, gimmicky crap. So everyone, including me, everyone in the video game industry was like, well, that's it. That's the death nail for Nintendo. Bye-bye, you are done. And then, wow, did they know the gaming market.
It's one of the top sold
It is
consoles.
one of the top selling consoles of all time because they hit all of the casual gamers, including a whole ton of adults who would love to get into video games, but they're, they can't sit there and get all hardcore into Uncharted or, whatever. All these different games, they're like, to stand up and play tennis, with grandma. It was awesome. Or your grandkids, like all of this was awesome. So they loved it. Loved it. Sold the crap out of those systems. Again, not a very big library, but their gimmick worked.
And they also did the thing with the GameCube where they just got random.
Yep. Eventually, they got desperate. They're like, our library's real small here.
It's dry.
And we're gonna borrow a little tip from Sony. We'll make it backwards compatible. You can play your GameCube games on here. So you're like, oh, cool.
The 5 games that were on there, we could play it on the Wii.
All right. Well, at least that gave really good first-party library. If you hadn't played them before, there's some great Zelda games on the GameCube. There's some, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and stuff like that. There's some great Zelda games. And Smash and a few other things. So, immediately you've got a library of games, and they were going to be compatible with the wand. Before the Xbox One launched, they made all kinds of announcements. One is the Kinect, a peripheral that they released late in the life of the 360. That's motion control, camera, microphone, that kind of stuff. It's a gimmicky thing of their own. You can use your hands to play video games. It's so gimmicky, and it was clunky. It didn't work right. Okay, whatever. The Xbox One came with it in mandatory. The system wouldn't work without it plugged in and functioning. You could not turn it on and use it at all if the Kinect was not on and functioning. And your system had to be online, the Xbox One had to be online all the time, or you can't play your own games, even disc-based games. So they were also talking about having forced advertising, where they would have advertising every time you turn on your system. It would be, a commercial or two. And then they would read your reaction. And then they would sell that information back to the company who made the ad. And it was going to be at least $100 more than the PS4. And everybody's like, it's because you forced us to get the Kinect, man. And so tons of people are like, nope, we ain't doing it. We're not buying it. All these Xbox 360 homeboys, fanboys just, I can't wait. Or like, okay, never mind. And then here comes the PlayStation Vita. Again, what a massive technological leap forward. Unbelievable leap forward. It's one of the greatest gaming systems ever made. And nobody would know. I don't know why it didn't take off. Everybody who plays handheld games would rather have 8-bit, cartoony, garbagey, clunky, D-pad functioning crap. Whereas now you have a dual stick touch screen. The back of the screen is playable. It connects to your PS4 and it's got remote play. You can play your PS4 games on this.
And can't you play PS3 as well?
Yes! Bro, this is such a huge step forward. And you've got Netflix. And you've got everything. You've got your email. You've got every full internet access. You've got everything you want in this handheld device.
Well, didn't the 3DS come out at that time? Or around that time?
Oh, it doesn't matter because you're adding gimmicks to your old products. the DS, the game that was, the system that was, brought out in the early 90s in China or something, and now, okay, you've made a 3D feature on it. Oh boy.
Nobody even uses it.
Well, because it hurts. If you don't keep it at a perfect distance from your face, if you go just a little further, a little too close, it hurts. It'll hurt you, give you a headache.
There's also a scale in which you can put how 3D it is.
But that's the same thing, because now all you did is change how far that is from your face. And so if you move it from that spot, which of course you're playing an intense game, you're going to, then oh my god, my head hurts,
I don't even remember any big games on the 3DS. I know that there was a Pokemon game, and then
all the typical first party players are there.
There was Sun and Moon, and everybody really liked Sun and Moon, but that was later into its life.
Zelda games, there's all of it's there.
There was a new Luigi Mansion that came out on that one as well.
So anyway, how that didn't do better, I don't know. So now nobody can keep up. It's a 2-horse race, because Nintendo's like, hey, we found a winner in the Wii and staying with gimmicky stuff. So they did the Wii U, which is a huge failure. So here you are with the Switch. What is the Switch?
The Switch
is gimmicky crap.
It's basically the better.
It's a Wii U. It's a Wii U and a Wii mixed in together.
And the nunchucks.
And it's gimmicky crap. So Nintendo's doing Nintendo stuff, and you've got so many Nintendo fanboys that it doesn't look like that company's going anywhere.
It's almost all exclusives, and that's what they ride on.
They've got their own. They went off on their own little path on the video game history. They're doing their own thing, and it's working for them. Man, good on you.
I wonder how much is just on merch alone, because they merchandise like crazy.
So now PC games have always been a thing, but now people are really getting into PC gaming, and I think that's because I predicted years ago that what's the end game for consoles? The end game is you make it just like a PC. Well, then if you do that, you screwed yourself. So, but also interestingly, throughout the years, Steam has, PC gaming have come up with, okay, we'll put out our own console.
When did Steam come out?
So they put out their own console, and it failed miserably.
It came out.
Oh, it came out and died, yeah. So here you are now with PS5 is out, and Xbox One S or S whatever. Bro, again with the naming.
Just the mini fridge. I
whoever
call it the mini fridge.
Bro, whoever comes up with the names of their consoles, just take them out in the alley and shoot them. Get it over with. It's stupid.